just so cool. I'm actually like doing this like
That's pretty clever.
It's just so cool. Tell me about your guys. Okay. Okay, so third question. What's your number one advice to powerlifters out there?
So, as I said before, like, so generally,
Before the camera just like died.
nah, yeah, should be alright. Hopefully I won't sound as, like, stuttery, I don't know. Yeah,
cool,
so, okay, so yeah, if I'm giving advice, this is probably only advice to, like, novices, because I can't advise people that are doing better than me, because that just doesn't make sense, because they know more than me. But and the only people that would be doing worse than me, or like lower down, are novices, right? So advice to novices, I'd say. I'll check that in a bit. Sorry.
Nah, it's cool. It's cool. It's cool.
That's my friend that's like on his way here, right? Yeah. That should be alright. Yeah. So in terms of advice for novices, there are a couple of things. Like if you wanna. The key thing is like patience and consistency to getting like long-term progress. Like with lifting in general, you never really get super fast progress.
Unless you're doing some dodgy stuff.
Yeah, exactly. unless you're like, you got some interesting supplementation.
50 kg in 1 week.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So like, you got to be consistent with your training. You know, if your program says you need to be in the gym 4 times a week, then stick to it. You want to make sure you're training consistently. You don't, unless you suddenly start getting injured, which is the other key thing I'll get onto in a bit, but, for the most part, don't miss sessions just because of laziness, right? Once you've got the consistency down, focus on the form, like, you can get by as a beginner because of like what powerlifting's like. It's all about the sport itself involves lifting heavy weight, right? That you want to lift as heavy as you can to do well. Right? For a big part of it, that's what will win you competition. Then later on, it becomes more complicated with like learning things about how to compete, and play in competitions, right, and whatever. But a lot of it will be just lifting heavy. And so you get a lot of beginners that will start the sport just being really kind of like enthusiastic with lifting heavy weight, which is great, like that they're really enthusiastic, but you need to kind of, sometimes they'll sacrifice form for it and push through like really heavy reps or whatever with just the worst form ever. And like then they'll do it so much that...
it kind of like becomes habitual.
Yeah, especially on like a lot of programs like 531, whatever, where you've got like AMRAP sets and stuff like that. When you've got an AMRAP set, it's very common for like a beginner to just keep pushing and then their form will like look like rubbish, right? But then they just keep on cranking out reps and it's just like training bad form.
Yeah.
And then if you get bad form, you might progress a little bit for now, but in the long run it will massively hold back your progress. So really pay attention to form. Be open to like taking advice from people that, are more experienced about just how to improve your lifts, and always kind of look to clean up your form. Now, the last thing, which I think is very important, is don't ever underestimate when you need to rest. If you notice an injury is kind of cropping up and it's getting in the way of your training and you can feel it's getting worse, like don't train through it, because
it's not worth it.
Most of the time in the long run it's just really like it's just not worth it. With progress, like generally speaking, you will progress far better if you rest now. Like say you get an injury like biceps tendon strain from like benching or squatting.
It's like a bicep tear.
Yeah, I mean like so long as you're not juicing, like generally people are alright with that.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot more common with people that juice. I mean no doubt you get people that tear it like who don't, but like even so it's far less common. But yeah, so like it's quite common for people to strain their tendons, though I get it quite often, like with benching and low bar squatting and stuff like that, especially if I start bringing my arms in closer, because it's just stretching it a lot more and stuff. Just don't underestimate the need to rest. If you train through it, chances are, especially with like knee injuries and whatever, it's going to get worse in the long run. And then if you train through for like a month, just trying to hit bigger numbers within that short period of time, and then you find out you screwed something up, and then you're out of the sport for like 3-4 months, then you're going to do far worse than if you'd have taken like a week or two off, taken it easy or something, let it heal up, and then get back into it straight after, and then you can progress for those 3 or 4 months which you'll have been out for if you'd have pushed through the injury. So.
Nice, man. Yeah, like, it's interesting because, like I was saying before, I think Konstantin Kostadinov, he said the biggest problem he sees in powerlifting is overtraining.
Yeah.
So, like, it's definitely something that, I guess, a lot of novices like me just take for granted.
I mean, like, overtraining is like, there are definitely times when you want to carry fatigue, and like a lot of programs will kind of have it where you are meant to be training fatigued, like in a fatigue state at certain points. And so you can't, sometimes it's all right to be overtrained, but there are other times where it's bad to be overtrained, especially when you're peaking. You want to start like lowering your levels of fatigue. At least I think you do. I'm still learning how to peak properly.
Okay.
But like, at least the way I train, you need to, there are times when in a program you're not meant to be too heavily fatigued and stuff. And if you're overtrained then yeah, definitely you need to know when to rest and to take things easy. Just because something's said in your program, like you got to lift, 80% of your max for like this number of reps and sets. If you're really feeling crap on the day and you know that you're not meant to feel that way at that point in the program, then just like take it easy, because it's not going to help you in the long run.
Okay. Next question. So, what do you think is the main thing responsible for your current success? Would you say the people you train with, time?
It's a lot of things, really. In terms of the main thing, I don't know, I think... So I know some of my friends are going to be like, it's like genetics, man. Like, and I definitely will agree that, genetics, like what you'll get is you can get people that train really hard and sensibly and whatever, and they'll get really far. But then at the top level, it will be the genetics which kind of separates people generally, if everyone's training good. So at least it seems that genetically I've been doing all right. Like, I'll definitely notice like progressing a bit quicker than some people. Like, I get away with like sleeping less a lot of the time than a lot of people, or not eating as sensibly, or at least not eating as much. Like, it's quite common for me to like go to the gym, then come back, and then like in the evening and just like skip dinner because I just feel tired. And genetics plays a part, but probably the biggest thing is just like consistency and just like how much I love the sport. Because pretty much like since I started lifting, not necessarily since I started competing, like when I started lifting as a 14-year-old, one thing that I kept was just how consistent I was with training. I'd wake up in school at like 6:30 in the morning, which for a lot of people is like not early at all, right? But for me, that was pretty early. And I'd go to train in the school gym before school started, 3 to 5 days a week. When I first started, it was 3 days a week. Like in SIG form, it was about 4 or 5 days a week. And yeah, I'd go like every single day. I'd just be consistent and make sure I was there. If I didn't get in the morning, like because I oversleep, because things like that always happen.
Yeah.
As you'll know.
Yeah.
As I know as well.
Yeah.
Oversleeping
like
all the time. Yeah. But like, I mean, like, I'd make sure I'd go after school or like at lunchtime or something. Right now, it's just that consistency, just making sure you're always doing what you need to do. I feel that's probably one of the biggest things. Yeah, that's kind of helped me.
Just keep consistent.
Yeah, and just persevering, learning from
the
experience.
sport.
Yeah, exactly. And being open to advice from other people.
Sick. You mentioned like how sometimes you can get away with like not having enough sleep. How?
Yeah.
Get sleep. Sleep is for the weak. No, I'm joking. How important would you say sleep is?
Okay, so I think it's pretty important. Now, generally, I'm not the best with getting much sleep. Like, I'll often get around 6 hours sleep a night. just with like uni life being busy.
Classic uni life.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not the kind, I don't go out partying and stuff
just like
at
to
all.
sleep,
Yeah, it's so like, I'm not busy in that side, but like, you know, there are always things to do, like whatever societies you're involved with, like with powerlifting and whatever. There are a couple of things like that will always come up with organising things with the club or just other societies that I'll be involved with, or work as well, you know, because that's what you're in uni for at the end of the day. So it's a bit hard, and I often end up sleeping about 6 hours a day. But when my training picks up, like now when I'm peaking, when things start to get heavier and I start to get, just feel a lot more kind of fatigued to a degree. But yeah, when training gets a lot heavier and more taxing, it's like, then I really notice like how much of an impact sleep will have. Often if I don't sleep enough, I'll end up oversleeping massively by like 2-3 hours. And
by force, your body's like, I want to make you sleep.
yeah, like literally, I'll set like 3 alarms. I was telling you earlier about how like, last year I had an alarm which would wake up people across the corridor, right? Because it was so loud, and I'd sleep through it because I sleep so heavy when I oversleep. Yeah, so sleep is important. Recently, what I kind of noticed the other day, this is like the heaviest week of my training pretty much, and my squats didn't go to plan. Like I just wasn't feeling great on the day. Just wasn't able to lift as well as what I'd have expected to, given like my current rate of progression and stuff like that. So it was really frustrating. But at the same time that night I'd had, under 6 hours sleep that night. Just felt really crap on the day, and so what I did up until yesterday, I had 2 nights before my session yesterday from that squat session. I just made sure I was sleeping enough, like just sleeping as much as I could. And then I had a really good deadlift session, and I felt much better recovered. So
immediate improvement, just sleep alone.
I definitely think sleep is important, as I'm coming to learn.